more second.
We don't need more. That's for sure.
Recording in progress.
Sorry.
Check 1, 2.
We turn that up?
Heard that.
Oh, you wanted a little louder? Yeah. For the people in the back. All right. We are good to go.
We're good to go?
Good to go.
Call the meeting to order. Wait, everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's take the roll. Anderson here. Nybo.
Here.
Christensen is absent tonight. Meister.
Here.
Jailer.
Here.
Friedrich.
Here.
Weffels.
Here.
Welcome. It's good to see you all. I'd like to welcome our two new members, Lisa and Michelle. Would you guys like to introduce yourselves briefly to the rest of the commission and the public and just tell us why you decided you wanted to be on Parks and Trails? I didn't warn you about this question.
Thanks, Tom, huh?
Oh, I'm first, okay.
First you.
That's okay. I'm Lisa Weifels. I have lived in Corcoran for just about 10 years. I've got a couple of young kids, and we go to a lot of parks, and we do a lot of things outside, and so kind of just wanted to start getting involved too. I've been paying a lot of attention to all of the change, and just want to, I don't know, be part of it, I guess, in
Welcome.
a positive way.
Where in Corcoran do you live?
I'm off of Rolling Hills
Sure.
on Horseshoe Bend.
Excellent. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
And my name is Michelle Friedrich, and I'm not sure where to look. And I've been in Corcoran for 21 years, and I live just near Shamrock Golf Course. And I wanted to be involved because I want to try to have some impact on trails in Corcoran. We used to go to parks when my kids were little too, and it's exciting to see all the new parks and trails coming into Corcoran.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, agenda. Are there any corrections, additions, questions about the agenda tonight?
I'd also like to give a friendly reminder. Make sure we're using our microphones. Makes my job a lot easier when I do minutes later on down the road. Thank you.
Now you don't need it.
You'll hear me.
All right, having no corrections or additions, Chair will entertain a motion to approve as written.
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second?
Discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Minutes from the February 17th meeting. Corrections, additions. Jessica does such a nice job. I mean, when there was a time when I did the minutes, and the first half of the meeting was correcting the errors that I made in doing the minutes.
I was usually spelling. It's okay.
They were handwritten.
The hardest part is when I do Commissioner Christensen, because our names are spelled just a tiny bit different, so I have to make sure I get his right.
Oh,
Yeah.
didn't even think of that. Well, I won't motion because I wasn't here, so.
Okay, I'll motion to approve the minutes.
Motion- Is there a second? I can second.
Anybody else was here, except for you, yeah.
Any further discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, thank you. Open forum.
We do have one other person on the call aside from Councilmember Nichols. If you would like to speak, please feel free to do the raise hand function. Otherwise, if anyone in the audience would like to speak, you're also more than welcome if you would like to raise your hand. Oh,
I'll raise my hand. I'll do whatever you need to do.
also, I did not put batteries in that microphone, so you'll just have to speak really loud.
Okay. You tell me when I'm too loud. So
Oh,
this is dead.
yeah,
All right.
I wouldn't even try it.
Dean Camp, Bechtold Road. I'm one of your council members, but I'm here as a council member. I want to thank everybody that's been on this board for a long, long time. I want to congratulate the two that got here. There's only two applicants, actually one initially, and then Lisa finally stepped up. So, extremely talented group of people, a tremendous amount of history here and everything else. I can't thank you enough. I look forward to being part of this community for 20 more years. I've been here 14. I lived across the border in Maple Grove for 20. And to watch what has happened so far with the resources that you've had, the resources that you're going to get are going to be really cool, and I'm very, very curious to see what you guys think.
Oh, boy.
What you guys want to do. So,
Pressure.
we've said it in the past. I think you all heard it. We really want River. I don't want, I know the mayor has kind of said this and the other council members, if you disagree, say something. Please reach out to any of us council members and mayor and your thoughts and those kind of things. And that's the only way we're going to take that next step from, I say, a town to a city. We're a city now, but there's just so much growth, so many things that can go on. But as I said when I became appointed as a council member, I want to do it in a very responsible way, and in a way that it will attract people. They don't need to live here, but it will attract them to come visit, those kind of things. So thank you guys very, very much. And then I do have some input on the new business public comment opportunity. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Dean.
Thank you.
If anyone on the Zoom call is interested in participating, please feel free to use the raise hand function. Otherwise, I think we're okay.
Are we good? All right.
Yes.
We have no presentations, we have no unfinished business. So, new business, public comment opportunity on new business.
Dean Camp. I live at 9310 Beckhold Road, and I'll speak as a resident. I'm excited to see the signage and those kind of things that you want to do and such. I really like what we've had at our ballparks, the soccer fields, the pavilion, those kind of things. But in my mind, I hope you revisit those signs. Tremendous amount of traffic, those kind of things. I'm concerned about Bass Lake Road now with Rush Creek development. A very good friend of mine lives and is a turnaround for the parks now. Robert Kraus, Bob Kraus, as people know him. I'd really like to figure out a way to stop people using his driveway as a turnaround. Some of you guys may or may not know what I'm talking about. It's just beyond the pavilion. Great guy, but the one day I was coming back, or going back out to my place, and Bob was the 10th person in line to get in his own driveway. And I was right behind him to go by him. And Bob found out I became on the council and stuff, and I'm getting an earful about his driveway. So if you guys could add that to your sign conversation and stuff, that would really be cool. And our park is a pretty neat place. If we could sign it, new signs, those kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that are there work, but I think there's something better out there. So thanks.
Thank you, Dean.
Thank you.
If anyone on the call would be interested in participating in the public opportunity, now is your chance to discuss anything 8A or B, either the preliminary plat application for Keranemi Meadows or the park signs discussion. And I think we're okay.
Okay. So you have something for us, don't you, Jess?
I do.
Keranemi.
So I will start by saying thank you to Kendra because she always does the PowerPoints for this, so I don't have to, which makes my life a lot easier. So this is regarding the preliminary plat for Keranemi Meadows. If you guys recall, this came to you either last month or probably the month before, as a concept plan, so now it's coming back as a preliminary plat. This is kind of the location. It's at County Road 10 and County Road 19. So the preliminary plat is to create 9 lots and 1 outlot for single-family residential homes. It shows the 10 lots, but Lot 10 is shown for future development and will be platted as an outlot. This is kind of the location. I apologize, I can't zoom in, but like I said, County Road 10 and County Road 19, and I can pull it up a little bigger on the Hennepin County GIS if we need, but I believe there are more maps that'll give you kind of a better idea of where it is if you're not familiar. Otherwise, there's also maps in your packet as well that kind of show a little easier. So the existing plot is 124.5 acres. 49.5 gross acres is the plan for this one. The Parks and Trails plan identifies a proposed on-road trail at County Road 10, and then a proposed off-road trail that runs along the Rush Creek corridor, which is what you guys talked about a couple meetings ago. It also shows a potential community park, either an athletic search area or a community park, but with acquiring the school property a few years ago, make it a full 80 acres, it's not necessarily needed. And it's also just on the border. I believe we have, I'll go back, you can kind of see it, it just kind of hugs in there. So, carrying on. So, in the site plan, you can kind of see the numbers on there. It's probably easier in your packet. It should be shown in there as well. But there are 9 lots in this area kind of going along the cul-de-sac. And then lot 10, as discussed, would be future development. That's this one. And then this is our Public Works building, if that helps kind of determine where it is. So carrying on, it was discussed at a previous meeting that the trail would be along the west side of the creek being through here, so that it wasn't along the back side of the houses. So staff is proposing 2 options, essentially, this red trail, which would be closer to the creek, and then this blue trail, which kind of meanders closer to Public Works. And then here's kind of the floodplain. I'm going to be honest with you, this map is the most confusing one out of all of them for me. And I didn't get a chance to touch base with Kendra today to talk a little bit more about it, but we can try and decipher it if you'd like to go through it a little more. But the gist that I have is that this kind of diagonal lined area is going to be the area that's most likely to flood. Unfortunately, I don't have a map that kind of combines this one and this one. So if you want, I can kind of flip back and forth and make it easy, and you just kind of squint.
Is the darker part under the slashes the creek? Do we think?
The creek is right, is the
Kind of the
right
raised
side, is the
part?
right side, it's the blue-green on the right side of the map for the most part, especially in the north.
This is kind of help.
It's the one that's got the hash marks, that is the creek, this is
Pretty
my
much.
backyard. so.
Okay.
Thank you. So continuing on, the off-road trail that's proposed along Rush Creek is located almost entirely within the floodplain boundary, with portions within the floodway. So that floodway is that I do know is the diagonal. The trail has to be outside of that floodway, and the applicant would need to provide cross-sections to prove that it would be a trail that's even buildable. Staff is recommending an extension of the trail out onto County Road 19, and I can flip back. It's this yellow line here at the bottom, so that it connects to County Road 19, which would be the Independence Lake Regional Trail for Three
Paved
Rivers.
one, yep.
That's cool. So, the city kind of has 3 options. Option 1 would be to build a boardwalk in that floodplain. As we know, boardwalks are very expensive. So that's not necessarily the recommendation that staff has. Option 2 would be to build a wood chip, gravel, or mowed trail that can flood. This type of trail would limit accessibility to residents with physical challenges, but is more and is more challenging for bicyclists and people with strollers, so that's kind of the downfall there, but it would allow the trail to be near a creek. You could enjoy the natural resources a little more. And then option 3 would be to move the trail to the west side of the property. Staff doesn't necessarily recommend moving the trail away from the creek towards Public Works. It's just not as naturally appealing. As a reminder, I can bounce back. So that would be option 3 is the blue one. Option 2 is the red one. And option 1, I don't think was even really shown because,
A boardwalk.
yeah. Yep. So with that, the park dedication required for the 49.5 acres is 4% of the net pre-development area. So it's approximately 1.98 net acres of park dedication. The applicant is proposing to dedicate a trail easement for the trail along Rush Creek. The easement is almost entirely within the floodplain, so it wouldn't qualify for that parkland dedication. With staff's recommendation of the extension that would connect to County Road 19 and that Three Rivers Trail, it provides approximately 0.7 net acres, so about 34 or 35.5 of the required park dedication. So after that, the cash in lieu of land would be approximately $26,926.55. That could change depending on how the plans are adjusted and so forth, but it's within that ballpark. So the question for you guys is to review it and make a recommendation on not only the trail location, so whether it's boardwalk, the option 2 or option 3, so red or blue, and then what kind of design you'd like to see. So do you want wood chip? Do you want boardwalk? Do you want mowed? Do you want gravel? And then you would make a recommendation to City Council, and then they will go from there. And the final thing I have on this, because Commissioner Christensen could not be here, I'm going to read his email, just to let you guys all have his opinion as well. He likes the idea of an off-trail wood chip trail, and it seems like you guys can get a lot of value with limited opportunity cost, given much of the land is already a floodplain and therefore not credited towards the park dedication funds. He understands the accessibility issues, but so he also enjoys the nature of the trails. There are and will be plenty of flat paved trails for strollers, casual walkers, touring, road bikes, etc. He likes the idea of incorporating some of these more natural trails, and he also referenced the Millennium Garden in Plymouth. He said even though it's in a floodplain and not usable all the time, it's one of his favorite trails. And then he said to take care. I don't know if that's for me or for you guys. So, with that, do you guys want me to bounce back to any of the maps? Specifically, do we have questions?
Yeah, Jessica, I have a question concerning the red trail that's right adjacent to the creek as compared to the blue trail. Do you know why the blue trail meanders so much?
I don't.
Okay.
That's a great question.
Yeah, it just seems longer than it needs to be unless there's another wetland that's not shown on here.
So I think it's to get out of that floodway.
It looks like it goes around the delineated wetland, and then it kind of does this other little loopy thing, and I don't
I'm gonna have
really.
to reset.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
sorry.
just,
We're gonna have some technical difficulties. The BenQ has been acting up tonight, so. I believe, so I'll bounce back to this map here in a second once I get the computer to work again. Okay, oh, and that's just my home screen. There we go. So, my assumption, if you look at this map and the red trail and how it kind of hugs east, it appears to fall out of the floodplain, or the floodway, and it kind of follows that teal and the brown. So I think it's to keep it out of that area, which is why the other one kind of meanders. You can see the outline kind of follows this, and I think they almost tried to jut it out a little further, just to avoid, going the wrong way, to avoid this part even. Whereas with the creek and everything, you kind of had to, there wasn't a lot of avoiding this area. Does that make sense? I wish I had them side by side, so that we could kind of compare them, or even an overlay.
Layered.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wrong way.
That outlot 10,
Yeah.
what is that zoned? Anybody? I mean, is that gonna be commercial over there, or residential?
Well, I think in a, Chair, if it's okay if I.
Yes, please.
I think in the previous version that we saw, and Dean, correct me if you remember differently, the applicant was looking at putting in 3 to 5 commercial lots on the 3?
I thought it was 3.
Okay.
But the access to 19 was,
Right.
was a share.
Where Public Works is.
Our Public Works, and our Public Works is set up as its own driveway or own entrance that they have to do, so that's a new thing.
Yeah.
They're gonna just leave that as an outlot.
So I don't think it's zoned for that. I think when he was talking about that before, it would need to be rezoned for those 3 parcels. So, yeah, I would think it's the same zoning as the rest of the,
Residential at this point, but.
yep,
Or rural residential or whatever.
yep.
And then if I may, Chair Anderson, that meandering trail out to the west, again, I live here, so to speak, but there's some elevations, that far loop to the far west, and then that other loop again. It's almost like a slight mound with trees, those kind of things. It wouldn't be a half bad route, but it's a lot of meandering back and forth and stuff. It's not a north-south corridor, so to speak, for some people, but it's an interesting, couple interesting paths.
And then another reminder, part of the discussion was connecting to the cul-de-sac before, and that was opted against. So the people in this cul-de-sac would be walking up the road 210 and then down and around. Just as something to consider if makes any difference.
And then either way, using where the yellow line is to get out to 19.
Yes.
Either path.
But it wouldn't be like a straight shot from the
No.
cul-de-sac to the yellow.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
What was the concern about the blue trail being close to Public Works?
It's just not as naturally appealing, I think.
A visual thing.
Yeah, the aesthetics.
Okay.
Not that they want to expand or anything like that?
Not as far as I'm aware. It sounds like they're figuring out other storage options. That was an internal discussion that I know of, but I don't think that was necessarily the intention. It's just, with it being the proposed option by staff being, it's going to be more natural, it's going to either be wood chipped or not bituminous. I think the idea is keeping it natural, keeping it away from Public Works, because that's, not that it's not a visually appealing building, but it's just not as aesthetically pleasing.
Well, I'm just going off of what Dean had said. If the terrain is kind of like more like a hill or a slight mound, it might be kind of neat to have that trail come around that way versus just having a straight trail through. I mean, it depends on what you're looking for. Are you looking for something that's more windy and kind of like natural?
I think Jessica said it well. Public Works looked really nice from 19, backside of Public Works, you got piles of dirt,
Yeah.
culverts, vehicles,
Yeah.
outside covered storage. I think that's the discussion that staff is having.
Not wanting to see that.
But again, the Public Works
It's
building
not
is
bad.
beautiful, I'm not saying it's a bad thing.
It's just not something that.
But yeah, the
Right.
backside would be
Walking
a
on
different
that.
view.
I don't know how many of you
Right.
have seen that backside, but it is an open lean-to storage area. So, I mean, there's trailers back there, exactly what Dean said, there are culverts and,
It's a busy place on the backside of.
So the red trail, how far into the floodplain is that? Do we decide?
I think it's just along the outside in like this teal and the brown area.
It's gonna be on
So
the
it's,
left, it'll be on the left-hand side, Jessica.
So it's to the west.
You're on the east side of the creek.
oh, I apologize.
There you go. Or maybe you are there.
It's hard to tell.
They're both,
Yeah, it's hard
they're
to
both
tell.
on the west side of the creek.
Yes, they are. It is a busy map.
It is,
Yeah, you can see where the confusion lies.
Yep.
For all of us.
Right now, it's not flooding.
And
no.
I wonder.
Give it another
It's
week.
wet.
No.
So it's a non-bituminous trail.
Well, that's
Or
kind
do
of
we
up
have
to
to
you.
decide
That's up to you.
We feel like that.
I would not want to see a bituminous trail right next to the creek in a floodplain.
Or that
It's not a
close.
good use.
As you
Dean,
indicate.
you've walked right next to the creek? I mean, how much of a floodplain is
It-
it? Is it underwater most of in a wet year?
I hate calling our creeks this, but it's been said numerous times in planning, when I was on planning and council, it's a ditch.
Has it been ditched?
It'll dry out, you know what I mean? So I'd rather call it a creek. But it does dry up in the summertime and those kind of things, it does. So, but, you know, if they're gonna do, those 9 lots and those kind of things, there's gonna be added drainage, there's gonna be some things that are gonna happen. It's neat, but it's not, how do I wanna say it? I love trees, but a lot of box elder, we had this conversation. But it would be a neat walk. I'd love to walk it on some type of trail instead of falling in gullies and everything that's happened to me, so. That's a really good.
Yeah,
Does
that's,
that help a little bit? I
That
can't,
overhead's a
Helps a
lot.
ton.
That's better.
So if you get closer, Jessica.
There's
your
not a happy
arrow is
medium.
Right now, wetlands, a rise, some treat areas and all of that, it's neat that the applicant is willing to set that aside for future stuff, so.
So Jessica, on that map, if you would click on that, select a year,
That's what I was gonna say.
yep,
The
go back to 2000, and click on that. Okay, so that's what that looked like 20 years ago, 22 years ago. So, you know, the woods that's there is recent, so that's gonna be willow and box elder and all those other nursery species that come in when you, like, anywhere in Corcoran where you stop mowing, that's what you get. And I was over there today, and I couldn't, it was too wet to walk, and it's not my property, so I didn't go out very far, but it was just kind of a mess. I mean, it looks the way everything look, you know, a field looks when you stop mowing. It gets some brambles and vines and all that sort of stuff. If you could go down a little further south.
Oh.
Right there. Now.
we go down more?
Right, no, that's fine. Right there, that's you can see the tree line, that's the southern border of the property. And there's a woods right there. That's about 9 acres. And that's the part of the lot that is marked on the DNR valuable woodlands list. And that's about 9 acres of maple bass woods right there. So that's, in some ways, that's the piece of this property that's the most interesting in terms of a park. That's woods that's probably been grazed, but may or may not have ever been cut. If it's been cut, it was not before 1920, or between 2000 and now. So,
I figure this might give a little more
yep,
definition to the property.
highlight that. I think that having the trail run across the property line over to 19 there would make good sense. At some point, the property to the south something will happen to that, and that we would then get to extend the trail along in the creek there, but who knows when that will be. So to make a cut through there, I think would be pretty nice, would be great. My personal feeling on the rest of the trail is, you know, wherever we get it, as soon as we stop mowing, it's gonna turn into woods, and it'll be, for as long as I'm alive, it'll be nothing spectacular, but, you know, in 50 years, it will start to take some shape, and it'll be maple, basswood, oak. The elm won't come back, but, you know, the ash will be gone. But it'll be some more interesting trees, it'll be a little more mature. But it's gonna go through some difficult, we have to keep the buckthorn out.
Does that help a little bit to show
Yeah.
current?
Yeah. So, but there is some ditching right there that's called a ditch, I think. So, yeah.
Not to jump in again.
Yeah,
if I
no,
can.
that's fine, Dean.
What happened to the possible homes on that southern border into those woods and stuff? Those are all gone now?
Yep.
They were actually talking about.
I think so. Yeah, I think they just, in this after they came to us with the second or third one.
Yeah.
It had the commercial properties and had some homes down
All the way
along the
along
southern
this-
border, yeah. I think we gave them the feedback about wanting to preserve some of the trees,
Yeah,
a little bit,
okay.
kind of in the middle of the property there on the southern border. And then he just decided to do the homes all on the east side there.
And then the property on south of this, you guys, there's a big sign out there for sale, so that's been there for a few years.
Yeah. So Judy, how are you leaning on this?
You wouldn't want to know. You know, I look at it like this, there's, these people, they come in and they want to build, and they kind of give us like, let's just say the crappiest piece. Granted, it might be beautiful 10 years from now, but for right now, you got lowlands, you got all this stuff, and it's going to need to be cleaned and worked and all that to make it beautiful. In the meantime, all these people have to do is walk out their driveway and go down to this path here. You can walk all the way down to Crowhasset and find all the nature you want. Same thing, go the other way and go down 19. Those are already there. I say go for the money, but that's me. You know, I'm not a fan of box elderbug trees.
I'll go back to here then.
You want me to pull up a map?
I was just going back to what, you know, as the open space and that page. And the trails, I mean, do we even have a trail really through it?
And what are you looking at?
Yeah, there is right here, the yellow, right? I mean, we had a proposed trail through there. I'm
Yes.
just verifying
Yep,
kind of
yep.
where it was
Yep,
or
we did.
whatever.
Yep.
And through here, it's on the east side, but it doesn't make a real big difference.
I was gonna pull something up for you guys, but
Can't find it?
IT problems again.
Yeah.
It's okay.
This will be an ongoing throughout the evening.
And did the plans say that the developer would be building the trail?
So,
Part of the deal?
my understanding is that they would raise the land and kind of set where the trail would be, but as far as actually building it would be on us.
Okay.
There's kind of a new metal building up on that corner. What is that? Do we know?
There'll be two more added to that. That is a communications company, the Berry Cable.
Was that what those are? Okay.
That was approved, I believe, a year and a half, 2 years ago.
Mhm.
And it's coming to.
Getting rolling.
So on County Road 10, it's the.
Right across from
parking lot for-
Storman's there
parking lot
by
for
the.
trail and then
Yep,
that new.
next door,
Next door.
kinda. Okay.
I have a question about, I'm looking at the ghost plot, and I just wanted to make sure, because there's a proposed road there. That's the site, there's a ghost plot here in our packet.
Down here.
Yeah, I assume then there would be, if a road goes in there, there'd still be, like, the trail would be off the road. Continue to be off-road there. It just looks really close to the property line, so
You're looking at the new road that they would
Yeah.
provide access to the lots?
no, on the south side. On the, ghost plot. It's like, I think it's the last.
You know which page it's on in the packet?
I don't know. What is this one? It's right before the one with the colors.
Gotcha.
Oh, proposed road.
Yeah.
Ghost plat? Yeah.
Which page are we on, kids?
So it's the.
Ghost plat one. There's the road down.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one right there.
Okay.
So we'd keep like, there'd be an easement in there for the trail off of the road then, if they put in that road?
I think that might not belong to the packet. I think that was the proposed road designed with those homes that were down there.
So that might be off the table entirely now?
I don't know, that's what confused me about this thing. I think the newest one with the trail, with the two colored lines on,
Well, so
it
here's,
says proposed 20-foot trail. That's where I was talking about the residential component down there of like 1.5 to 2 or 3 acre lots.
and important to
all
note,
down there, so.
the packet comes out before the PowerPoint does. I get the PowerPoint pretty much the day of. So I would say that the items on the PowerPoint are probably more up-to-date than the items in the packet. But I can't guarantee you that the proposed road isn't.
And the only thing I could think that road would be for was if he was planning on doing something with those lots 4, 3, and 2 that are on that Ghost Plat page. Because it would give access to those 3 lots.
But that would be part of the future development.
Right, yep.
Confusing. Good job, you guys did that.
Yeah, okay.
So Val, you were wondering if it connected to other trails, like future trails? don't know
Yeah,
if we
I
have
kind of
that
looked at our map that's there, because it kind of cuts through and actually goes to the other. Remember the time we sat and looked at the big map of other communities also?
Oh,
So that some of ours would hopefully flow
Connect.
into theirs,
Yeah.
and, but, we don't have it going over there. That's okay.
Circling back, I think that could be a discussion when they try and develop later on that part. I mean, considering there would likely already be an easement there. As part of this, they wouldn't get credit, as far as my understanding, they wouldn't get credit for that easement down the road because it would have already been done for park dedication for now. So they would likely have to dedicate a different portion, is my understanding. That being said, I don't know that the proposed road is a guarantee there because that part isn't necessarily getting developed. Does that make sense? It kind of these two are overlapping, but they're not both happening at the same time.
The Outlet 10, you mean? That one, or?
I'm talking this proposed road,
Okay.
the one down there.
because they wouldn't get double credit, and this is the part that they would, like, the connection to 19 would be the part that they're getting that park dedication credit for, because the rest of it falls within that floodplain. That,
Yeah,
Well, that's just going along by that deeper ditch, right? That yellow one that you're
Yeah.
showing?
yeah.
That's that deeper one that goes from the other, I can only think of old names, sorry. From a whoever property to Relke property, you know what I mean? There is a deeper ditch that had been kept clean
Yeah.
when they were farming, and now they're not, so it's
Filling
crunching
in.
in too.
So if that road is, if the road is actually in part of their plan, it would be just 400 feet of a dead-end road. And that the trail there would be to the side of it?
Okay.
Yeah. So just to go back, the trail along Rush Creek is all the way from one end of town to another. So this is a small piece of a much larger trail that will happen. We have a little piece of Mary Bechtold's, on Mary Bechtold's property that was as an easement from some years ago. So slowly we would be picking up bits and pieces of that trail. Very slowly, as it turns out. Little did we know, and there'll be some, there's some tougher spots to get through. Val, are you zeroing in on something that concerns?
No, I'm following the trail here.
Following the
to
trail,
Mary's.
okay.
Any maps I can pull up or Hennepin County GIS again?
Sharon, what are your thoughts on?
Well, my thoughts were, if we're trying to decide what type of a trail, is that
We have-
still the
Sure,
discussion?
Sure.
I would go with a walking trail, a nature trail, since it is next to the creek, and there is a bike trail right on 19. You would just need a way to access it, so you could kind of make a loop, maybe walking on the bike trail, down this nature trail and around. You wouldn't necessarily want just a one-way, get to the end of it. Well, I suppose you could just walk back, but,
Sure.
yeah.
So a person, if they wanted to, could park there's a parking
There's a
lot,
trailhead
right there.
right there.
You could walk it down 10, down this trail, then back up on the trail on 19, if you wanted to do that sort of loop.
Right,
Sure.
if that's feasible.
It would absolutely be feasible.
I like that loop idea too. Like, just thinking about when I've taken my kids out there, it gets a little boring to and it's still a little nerve-wracking when they're little to be on that trail close to the road. I'd rather get off and be able to kind of break it up a little bit and not just kind of down and back would be more interesting. We'd probably use it a lot more.
How about you, Tom?
Good job.
Yeah. I think a walking trail, there's disadvantages to chips and disadvantages to rock, and whatever you do, it's higher maintenance, but blacktop in a floodplain is not low maintenance by any means, because it just washes right out.
Right, and
So,
think of
so I
ice.
think something where we're sort of honest and say this is gonna need some maintenance and some rolling, and if we get it up a little higher and engineer it properly, then it's a lot less trouble. Whether it goes right next to the creek or over, the black, is it the black line? The black line is, blue line is just, it's too wavy for me. I would like it streamlined a little bit. I like the idea of it's not such a direct line. I don't see, everything to the west of the blue line is, at this point, a farmer's field is plowed. Everything to the right is plowed only on good years, on dry years maybe, something like that. To move it over more move it closer to the red line, weave it back, leave it decorative, scenic, I think would be, I hate to choose between those two because they both have their faults. I think the blue line is too far west. The red line, being right next to the creek is not all that wonderful. So somewhere in between would be kind of my choice.
I think the issue with that was that it would fall in that floodway, and
Well,
that's the option that we.
That we have to stay out of the floodway.
Yes.
So if that's really, to be at the edge of the floodway then would be my choice. And if that's what's on the blue line, then that's what I support. But I don't think it is. I think it gets over further than the floodway, if I am reading that map. So we're sort of raising a bunch of questions for.
Yeah, it'd be good to have an overlay with this, to see.
Hindsight is 20/20.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you could cut those big loops out of the blue line and go more direct and stay away from the Public Works building.
Yeah.
But is that why we can't? Because you have to get around that, like,
Yeah,
could you
I
hug
think-
that section of the floodplain?
I think that's
Or
right.
you can't?
You have to get fairly close. Although the Public Works is a little higher, so if you were walking, it's not like you're looking into it. It's higher. You're very close to it, but I don't know, it helps those folks keep their back door in order. We've got a bunch of logs piled over there now. It's okay. They're not gonna store junk cars. It's a workspace,
That's
but,
further down the road.
that's, well, there's a lot of that in Corcoran.
That Millennial Park, you walk by an area where all you see is a huge, like one of those big white domes. There's
A
whole
sports dome.
Sports
where you
dome.
walk by a sports dome, and that's not.
It's not real scenic either, is it?
So show me on this map where the red line is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know you hate
Just
me.
tried it.
Well, my best interpretation is that it falls in this teal area, into the brown area, still brown area, and then it gets a little dicey.
So if
I
we
think the
can-
creek is the raised area underneath the floodway, where you see
Yeah,
like
right
the
there.
tree lined. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
the
I think
creek.
that's the creek, and it's to the left of the creek,
Mm-hmm.
to the west of the creek.
So if we're cutting across that blue, the teal, and the brown with that other, with the red lined trail, can't we cut in through some of the other areas on the blue trail and not go so wide?
I wish I could zoom in.
Boy, yeah, it looks like
Me-
that red line is in the,
Let me try
one.
it looks like it's in the floodway to me.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
It might
seems like
help.
it should be further east and then,
Let's go this route. So here is your creek.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's on the west of the creek.
It is to the west of the creek. Yep,
Mhm.
yep.
So you're avoiding some wetland areas.
But like if you could bring that blue line, not quite so out so far, and then just
Like
bring
over
it-
here?
Yeah, bring it back
Bring it
in by
back
the
in.
K,
Yep.
and then go up, and then almost meet where the red line is. So you're going behind that wetland area instead of on the side of Public Works. Does that make sense?
Who drew the blue line?
So you'd extend right where your hand
Are you
is.
saying like here?
Yep, and then go
here?
past, no, up by the K. Don't even go out that far, just keep it closer to the red, but have the blue
Yeah,
line go up by
following
the
the red,
K, and
by
then go
the-
up by the O, and then almost catch that red line again, and then finish the trail that way.
I'm not sure what K, oh, the
in the
block
word
K?
block,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Block, yep.
I was looking at outlot and I was very confused where you saw K.
Sorry.
So you're saying
I
kind
need
of,
one of those.
Blue
little
line
red
coming
lights.
up like
Yeah.
that and
Yeah.
meeting the red one up there, rather
Then we're
than,
avoiding the Public Works vision, but we're still kind of keeping that nice natural feel to it. And we're staying
So-
close to the red since it's on that west side anyways.
I wonder if I can do like a nice little 50-50 here for us.
Wow, that's cool.
Oh man, aren't you guys glad you have a millennial?
Mhm, we are.
Oh, oh no.
undo.
I know that button.
Broke.
I would never.
But we have it printed.
So I'm thinking this teal part is your wetland.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking you can't go up into, like, I think you could probably shimmy this way. But once you get up into here, you're going back into that floodplain. Or that floodway right here. So you can't go into there.
Which floodway, point again on the other one?
So this teal area, this delineated wetland,
Yeah.
does it, maybe I can pull it
So
down.
I
but
see
it
that
lines up
blue
a little
curve on the bottom is kind of where the curve is down here, where the numbers are, right?
bit. Like this?
To your right a little bit, where it says Zone AE, where it comes that green portion right there.
Yes.
That's where that blue scoop is, underneath block, I think, right? So that treed area is kind of looping where the addition is that right or not?
I'm seeing this little loop out
Uh-huh.
as
Going around that.
this loop out.
If you go look on
The
the,
lower,
It's the
it's
southern
the
one.
southern one, the other one,
that one.
that one,
This?
that one.
Yeah.
That one,
Brown.
Because you can see the corner
Public Works.
of the Public Works lot.
Well, now I think we have a whole nother dilemma.
Aren't you glad you have some boomers here?
Well done.
If I can jump in.
Sure, yes, Dave.
Tom said it best. All of that, I'm gonna say brown,
Yeah.
sandy
Yeah,
color.
yeah, yeah.
Is all currently plowed. It's all been field. It's all been done. We get the same thing up on the site for the right hand of the field. We got a wetland in the middle of what they're proposing, but it's been plowed, it's been planted and all that stuff. We're recorded, Crush Creek watershed, Elm Creek watershed, all of those things. they keep coming up with these delineated wetlands or proposed wetlands or future wetlands, and it kind of messes with a lot of our maps. It's all plowed, all that brown is that sandy color is plowed and has been field for a long time, except when it gets extremely wet, the farmer can't plant it, so.
Which on that farm has been a lot.
Well, is the dark green all plowed too? All farm field? I mean, that's what I.
The rest that's not in the wetlands, or all the other crazy colors, that's been corn, that's been
Yeah.
beans, that's been.
Okay.
If we were to have a trail that followed the floodplain border, and I don't think the red one does, just as I look at it.
Doesn't look like it to me
If it
either.
followed, if it stayed on the left-hand side, I think that would be through some wetlands, at the edge of some wetlands. It would give us, it would be it's a meandering look to me. Although the scale could be confusing, but I think that would work really well for me.
So you're saying, just so that I'm on the same page when I have to relay this back to Kendra,
Yeah.
the blue, but try and cut it closer to the floodway, like that
Yep.
diagonal?
That crosshatched, the striped section there, if we just stayed on the west edge of that, right through the property.
So then here's my follow-up question. If Kendra comes back
Yep.
and says, we have to keep you to the left of the teal and the sandy color. I'm playing devil's advocate
Sure.
because I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I feel like though the creek is running through, I feel like the teal and stuff is not our trail.
No.
Can I
Right.
point
Correct?
there really quick?
It's all on, yeah, I was gonna say, let's start pointing.
So this is where the red line is running. Through here.
Right.
I think so.
Along
Right.
the east
Yeah.
side of that little ditch.
I think that's right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be my
What
assumption.
I'd
Is
think.
the blue line then running around the floodplain already? But it doesn't seem like it, because then it comes.
It seems it
way
comes
up
way
here,
out to there,
and
yeah.
then it comes out here,
Uh-huh,
and
uh-huh.
then it comes down. And
Yeah.
then goes out really wonky.
Yep.
I mean, it looks like the red line goes through the floodplain,
It does,
totally.
through the,
I just quick put it into your guys' packet,
Yep.
and I remembered this map, I just didn't want to believe it and stuff. If you look at the legend up here, everything says probable wetland.
yeah.
So that
Sure.
Tom said, and then I said, we need to conform, Kendra's gonna recommend all of that stuff, and then anything we do, obviously, is gonna have to go in front of the watershed group and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
So again, just,
So, lovely way of thinking, yes.
so right now the red trail is on the left side of that long blue creek, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Which
But
is
in
all
the
probable
wetland.
wetland.
yeah.
So then the blue is just avoiding that probable wetland.
Yeah, I think so.
Yep.
But so then why couldn't you skinny up the blue if it's already in the wetland? The red, you know what I'm saying? Like if you squish the blue line in more, or is the yellow something that we can't touch?
The yellow
either?
Yellow
is
is-
the potential wetland.
Okay,
Keranemi County Watershed Index is the reference. All right, you glad you do the research before this stuff?
it's so confusing because the red's running through there already.
Right, exactly. So either that, and if you can do it, then just push the red line out a little, away
Right,
from
right,
it
or
more,
move it
but,
Right, either way, yeah.
yeah. But either way, no matter what, it's going through there, correct?
It looks like it.
Yeah.
I think the red is going through the wetland a lot more
A lot
than,
more.
than the blue one is. I guess
So why was that an option?
because it's not in the floodway, it's in a probable wetland.
We can put trails in wetlands. It's just there are disadvantages in the maintaining of the trail.
Right.
But apparently we can't put a trail in a floodway, whatever, I'm not even quite sure what the definition of that is.
I think floodway is just more likely to
Even
flood out.
more than, it's more
Which-
often than once in 100 years.
The other discussion was, if you're putting it that close to the floodway, and you're doing more of a natural trail with either wood chip or mowed, what have you, is there gonna be maintenance problems with it flooding?
We can pretty much guarantee that no matter which pit, there are gonna be maintenance issues at certain times of the year. Gonna be-
Spring is gonna get a
it's
little
gonna get-
muddy.
And if we have a really wet fall, there could be a time in October when it's not great either. It's just based on,
Then you use the tar.
I live on Rush Creek further north, and, you know, Rush Creek sometimes at the very end of fall gets really full, runs really hard, but like Dean says, June, July, August, it dries up. It's-
I think other parks, so like, I think Millennial Park, if you went now, would be probably
Pretty wet, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's okay.
As a previous employee of Plymouth, I can say that it did get a little muddy.
And in June and July, that area will be just full of gnats. Every time you stop your bike, you're gonna get covered in gnats, so it's okay. Deer flies,
Yes.
that, you know.
So some of what I'm hearing, and this isn't me proposing that this is your motion or anything, but what I'm hearing is you're leaning more towards the, now I'm getting the colors confused. The blue line was the outside one?
Yeah.
So the further west line, but if we could cut it in closer and further away from Public Works, more push it east as much as possible, that would be the preferred route.
Or push the red one out.
Red one would just be like a moot point,
Eliminated.
not on the table. The blue, as long as you could get it as far east as possible, would be the preference.
Away from Public Works.
Correct, correct. Closer to the creek,
You're good?
further from,
Public Works.
Lisa, how are you with this?
I agree. I like, these bump outs are a little weird to me, so I'd like to, like you said, kind of get a happy medium between the two in a way, and pull it back in if we can. I like that option.
and then I also need a material, I believe. I think at the very least, I need to know you guys don't want bituminous
Nope.
and more
No,
of a
we don't want
natural.
that.
Right, yeah.
But a recommendation on the type of natural would be preferred. So if it's mowed, and these are just some of the options, wood chip, no.
Wood chip
Which-
for hiking? What do you
Or
think?
mowed.
I
like mowed.
If it's.
Because, you know, you're keeping your roots there as a solider base, if you ask me.
Where it was today, there was no way to mow that. There'd be, if you took out the undergrowth, you're not gonna have grass, it's undercover. It's just too shady, too wet. You could maybe mow through the sedges, I suppose. Mowed or wood chip would either,
Well, you guys think of that too. I was listening very closely. You also want a connection from that north spot over to
19 to the
19.
trail.
I don't think there's anything in the plans across that communication company that's going in. I'm.
On the north side there?
digressing and stuff, the very north on County Road 10.
Oh, no,
Isn't
this
there an
is-
off-road trail there proposed?
There is on the plan, I don't think that was what we were looking at, Dean. I think we were looking at the southern border
Right.
of the property.
Southern, yeah, but I'm just saying, I think Lisa was talking.
Oh.
It'd
Yeah,
be
we-
nice to make it a loop.
It would, but I don't
So I
think,
don't know if there's anything on 10, I don't know if you guys
putting,
want to check that out.
doing something on County Road 10 is,
Like
Correct.
impossible.
it's a whole nother project. Yeah. Just,
Not to guide or say
Yeah.
anything, but part of the preliminary plat is if they can, we continue with the loop of the trail on this property, south of that new building, and you see what I'm saying? I'm not trying to say anything, but I love the looping. type.
so you would say that we would go to the south of the new construction.
And over to the trail.
So if we've got a trail here, that ends up at the creek at 10,
Yeah.
is there any way to get a trail around back to 19 on the north side?
So you're kind of
I think
talking,
is what you're saying.
Rather than
you're
even.
over to Lake Independence Regional Trail,
Yeah.
that's on 19.
Except we wouldn't do it on 10, we'd do it
Well, what if it didn't even go all the way to 10 and just cut across?
If it could be that western where
And extend the
the
10.
arrow is right now,
Mm-hmm.
head south to the other corner and then out.
Or once again, it didn't even have to go all the way up. It could go up
Sure.
and
I
out
think
behind
we-
that property.
I think we want the trail, or at least the easement, to go up to 10, so that we can complete the trail on the other side of 10 at some point. But to have a trail across to 19 there, that'd be golden.
Can we just say
Jared?
natural materials at this
Yeah.
point?
Chair Anderson?
That's Councilmember Nichols, I apologize. I probably-
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
We're like, what do we?
Sorry, I've been trying to unmute, and Jessica's been trying to keep order. I concur with the concept of trying to make it a loop. I think that would be a great addition. I think you could keep the blue trail outline, and you could have an additional spur coming off along the north side of Block 1. Not going all the way to 10, but just cutting across north of Public Works to 19. So you would connect to 10, to 19 at the north side, and to 19 at the south side.
Yeah. Sure.
Okay, walk me through it one more time, Councilmember Nichols.
So if you see where the blue line intersects the corner, that interior corner on the north side, from that point, you keep what's going north, but you would have an additional easement going to the west out to 19.
Yep.
And then you would get a loop that would still connect both to 10 on the north side and keep the connection to 19 on the south side.
So something to note with that, just for reference, that would take away from the cash in lieu of land because that would count as more dedicated
It
parkland.
would.
Yes.
I don't know what the cost would be on that. I would assume probably similar to the southern connection, just because it appears to be about the same distance.
So probably about 15,000, rough math.
I gotta look at the,
Yeah.
Because it was about a third of the dedication was satisfied with that southern portion, because that's the only area that's in dry upland.
so you'd be looking at,
And it looks like it's about the same.
But, yeah.
you'd be looking at approximately another 15,000, which puts you at about 11,000 in cash in lieu of land, after all is said and done. And then on top of that, you still have to consider that you're gonna end up paying to build the trail. So just something to consider as you guys kind of work through this, and keeping in mind, we have 1.5, a little less than, in park dedication right now. 1.5 million, so you've got City Park coming down the line as well. You've got the boardwalk out in Bellwether. You've got the open space park in Ravinia. There's a lot of big park projects, not saying that 15,000 is gonna make or break
No.
those big projects, but just something to consider as you move forward with it.
I guess maybe one other thing to consider would be if he has, 4 building rights, I think? Let's say this were approved, I think he'd still have 4 building rights on the property.
Yeah, he's good, yeah.
And I know in all the previous versions, he did have some properties over here, so maybe that's something we look at when those sites come in, if they come in. The trail connection north of Public Works there.
Or then we get the cash.
At that point.
We do. we
It'd
keep
be neat
cash.
to have a whole looping trail like that. And I mean, we have to start somewhere with
Yeah,
trails.
it's fairly, this is, these are not huge, this is a fairly modest loop, but it's really nice, yeah.
Are we adding that then, to the blue line?
Thoughts on that?
What was that? I didn't hear it.
To add the trail to the, going from, south.
Across the northern point,
From the, yeah,
like here. Out, so it becomes a loop. And keeping that one, so it's actually going across.
But what are we doing with this then?
Commissioner Strehler,
That would go.
up here. kind of this way.
Right, but I'm saying
She's
down there on the
asking
bottom
so.
where the other yellow line is?
Yes.
Is that just, so then you would have both of those?
Have both of us.
So it'd be like a full circle.
So then you could park at the
Trailhead.
trailhead and do that little loop. Or you could go down 19 and then do that little loop.
So do we need staff to see if that's feasible?
Truthfully, I have no idea where this falls. You guys are getting into planning aspects, and I'm going to remind you, my degree is in Parks and Recreation. People who we have on staff for planning have master's degrees, and they're certified in a lot. So that being said, I don't really know, and I'm kind of going to defer to you guys to see if you have any insight that I am missing.
You're a lot smarter.
Yeah, I don't know in terms of if it's feasible or not, but maybe if you guys want to make a recommendation on the other aspects of it, and then with a note to have staff look into if there's an option there or a route there that could work. And
Is that a make or break for you guys if you can connect and make a loop? I think that would probably be another important, just because as far as timeline goes, with it going to council and staying on track, I don't know where all of this falls. If we have to circle back to you guys and go, okay, we need a second approval, it would maybe be having a motion with like a caveat of, please look into this. If this works, we would prefer this. However, maybe a secondary motion of XYZ.
Things don't come back to us as a rule.
Well, correct.
I mean, we're an advisory board, we're giving our best shot, and then the city council will take that into consideration as they move forward. That's my understanding. That's how it's always worked.
So ultimately, convince them, I guess.
Yeah, that's,
What does Jeremy think?
thank you. Jeremy, are you still there?
Yes, by the way.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, good.
I see value in loops. I mean, when I used to live on the Medicine Lake Regional Trail, there were several different loops that you could do from that trail system, connections of different roads and off-road trails. And I feel like that's a really good kind of amenity to build into the trail system. So I would certainly see value in looking at it if it's feasible. The nice thing also is that because it's right next to Public Works, if you decide just to mow it, the upkeep cost is relatively low because the mineralization cost is minimal, given how close they are.
I
So
will note, I don't know that they necessarily keep the mowers, well, I suppose they'd have to for their building, but
Yeah.
I know that a good portion of the mowers end up at City Park. So I don't know that they store them at that building.
I've got one in my.
Okay.
Meadows drive over.
You're gonna do it.
Ooh, the liability aspect is accompanied with that is quite high.
All right, are we ready for this motion or a series of motions?
Well, we didn't decide what we're putting on it yet.
Yeah, that's right. Well, somebody needs to make a motion, and then we can decide if it's one that we want to believe. How about one on trail type?
Say that again?
Let's have a motion on what the materials of a trail should be. That was a specific
Well,
thing.
we definitely ruled out bituminous.
Right,
Right.
right.
I like Val's idea of mowing,
Okay?
because let's not forget, this is a farm that is just left to go overgrow for what, 10, 15 years already?
Yep.
You really don't know what's under there. You may be able to mow it, and it'll build itself back.
Right, well, I'm talking a brush hog here.
Yeah, that's exactly what, I mean, that's what we use, we're in the farm area.
Yeah.
But, there again, the other thing that I think is this is not really a creek. It's not a creek. I mean, it's a far cry. It's not a creek. It is lowland. And you might get water running in it on a big rain day, but as far as it being a creek, it's really not. It's kind of just unfarmable land. So, that's why I think mowing would be great, and maybe filling in with chips where you need to, in the spongy areas. Or, you know,
And they're supposed to-
as we develop it, it might get stronger, and you could, you know, use the chips
In the low-lying.
in the low-lying areas
That's a
and,
great
and
idea.
kind of back off, but, I mean, to start out, like I said, it's really not a crick.
I would say if we're gonna do one or the other, would be easier for maintaining. Because otherwise, if you're mowing and you have some parts that are chipped, you're going to have to mow
Run over it with the
that
bush hog
somehow.
like we do. I'll take care of it.
It's a really neat noise.
It's a new piece of equipment we need.
All right, so we have a motion to do a mowed trail where possible and fill with wood chips as needed.
Yes.
And that's by Commissioner Strayler.
Yes. Is there a second?
that.
Second by Val. Discussion. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Nay. All right. All right, so we have a surface. Now, trail.
And please include the yellow part at the very least.
And-
Use your colors.
Should we-
And
should we-
Do you want me to pull the map back up?
should we use, we can break this up. Yellow trail at the bottom of the map? Or are we in favor of looking for that?
Yes.
All right, is there a motion to recommend that we take the trail at the southern edge of the property?
A motion
To
for the
use-
southern access road in the yellow.
I'll second.
Second, all right.
And the blue trail,
Well,
Oh.
further the discussion, we have to remember that we're gonna, if they are gonna put a access road in there, that trail will not be that access road. They're two different things, yeah.
right.
We know that.
So we're currently on the yellow trail.
Yellow trail, yep,
Motion by Meister, seconded by Friedrich.
Yes.
yep.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right.
Look at you guys, so organized.
This is hard. Okay, now the trail, the red or the blue trail, we need,
I think we need a middle.
or whatever color that is.
Yeah, we need another color.
We need a middle line trail.
Do you want me to kind of tee it up and then someone can say if that's what you're thinking?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So the blue line, with the caveats, there's two of them, of if possible, in that northern part where it touches the corner of the property, let me switch it over for the people outside too. Right here.
Uh-huh.
Caveat one, if we can get it connected over to 19, that would be preferred, but if it's not possible, that's not the make or break. The other thing is getting that blue trail more east as much as possible, away from public works, avoiding obviously wetlands and moving it as applicable,
Avoiding the.
Be a reason.
without being inside of the
spillway.
wetland.
Not the wetland, the.
The floodway too.
Floodway.
I think too, we were going to extend that northern line as well, 210.
We-
Not just a complete loop, but extend it also.
Or it has to go all the way.
Right, so the blue line entirely, but where it touches this corner, attaching it to 19. And then moving it as easterly as possible.
And still connecting to 10.
And still connecting to 10, and then hopefully 19 twice.
Yep.
Slow moved.
Thank you, Michelle. All right, does everybody, are we all on the same page as to what we're describing and then questions?
I think so.
Discussion. I think
we
you
are.
did a good job, Jessica, since you're gonna write this up.
Well, when I email Kendra tomorrow, I just want to make sure that I,
Yeah,
so, motion
yep.
by Michelle,
Second by
Second.
Meister.
Meister. Further discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
I just want to make sure we hit every point that she had before we move forward.
Are there, yeah.
Location, design, think we got it all. I hope we got it all.
We'll hear again if we didn't.
Good job. That was a tough one.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, thank you, Representative Dean, and
Jeremy is.
Jeremy,
Representative, I'm
yep.
here to
Yeah, you're here as a,
just mess things up.
anyway, thank you all for
Oh, we appreciate
kicking
it.
in on this.
Absolutely.
This is what we call a collaboration, isn't it? Yeah. All right, next item, what are we down to here? Park signs discussion. All right, Jessica,
All right.
more contention here.
Well, this one should hopefully be a little easier. In your packet, I tried to make it very clear, this is not a discussion on what color do you want, what do you want the sign to look like, how pretty do you want it to be, what do you want it to be on. This is a discussion of what do you want on the sign. So we're gonna be talking rules and entrance signs. I'll throw this up there. So there are 3 types of signs that we will discuss. The entrance sign, so like a monument sign, I believe Councilmember Varenkamp was referring to kind of those. If you go off of 10, there's a sign when you're going into the parking lot that kind of lists what you can access from these parking lots. So it says pavilion, which truthfully I think is got a spelling error. And then there's some other items as well. So getting those replaced is kind of a priority as far as I'm concerned.
I'm kidding.
But making it so that you know that it's a park, you know where to enter, that will hopefully avoid the turnaround that he was talking about with a resident. So the next type of sign would be rules, and those are kind of pictured at the top there on the slide. I have visited a handful of parks, both while working and not working, and collected a variety of sign examples, which are shown in your packet. The final one, and this one isn't part of the discussion tonight, however, it is a future discussion topic. If you recall, and for those of you who are new to the commission, we had a discussion about 2022 priorities, one of those being Wildflower Park having educational or interpretive signage about the various types of wildflowers, just to kind of get people more engaged and educate them on what's there. It's nice for kids too. They get to learn at the same time while doing something enjoyable rather than sitting in a classroom and having to learn that way. However, that is not part of this discussion. Moving forward, so entrance signs. Upon speaking with the folks who oversee coding and everything, it sounds like we can have one per park, with the caveat of City Park is technically 2 parcels of land, so you would have the option of having one off of 10 there and off of 50. I would recommend waiting to install anything or making any real big plans on that until after we have a further.
There's 2 signs there now, isn't there?
Yep. So there's
Yep.
one down by the warming house, and I can pull up a map if that helps, but off of 50 where that warming house is, there's one there, and then off of 10, there's one there.
Isn't
Which
there
is-
another one by the parking lot too where the soccer fields are?
There's 3.
Well, then there should not be 3. This is
You need a
before my.
sign, you need a sign.
Before my time. Those might be fine just because they're more informative. So there's various types of signs, so like the rule signs, you can have an abundance of those if you would like, because they're informative. Once you hit a certain size of a sign is where it gets a little dicey and you can't have so many. So the entrance signs would be more of a monument sign, and that's where you can only have one per parcel of land. So with that, I'm looking to see what you guys want included on the sign, and I'll go through all of these points, and then we can kind of circle back and go one by one, but just let we get an idea of everything that I want to kind of touch on. So what do you guys want to see on the sign? Generally, it consists of a park name, so I'll use Wildflower, for example. It would say Wildflower Park. An address is also something I've seen on them, and there's no real staff recommendation there. It might be nice if an emergency is to occur. However, it's also additional text. Is that aesthetically appealing? Maybe not. That's kind of up in the air for you guys to decide. City logo is another thing that I've seen quite a bit. And then, do you want City of Corcoran on there as well, or would you be more looking at, I mean, you could do a combination of the top half, the bottom half, both of them. Something to consider. Moving on, The park rules signage, I've listed out a summarized version of all of the park rules that you guys had previously discussed. I believe it was last year, and then I went to council, it got approved. These are your new ordinances, again, summarized. What rules out of these would you want listed on the signs? I've kind of color-coded them. The blue are the ones that make a lot of appearances. I would say upwards of 80 to 90% of the time. So you got park hours, the alcohol rules, leash law, parking in designated areas, or no motorized vehicles past, this point. Tobacco use, and then golfing. Those were the main ones. And then littering and glass containers make an occasional appearance. Littering is kind of assumed. And then the non-color coded ones don't necessarily make a lot of appearance. However, if you wanted to include them, you absolutely can. Last slide for this, goals for the night. Determine if signs will be consistent throughout the park. So do you want the rule sign to all say the same thing? You'll notice that some of these, for example, this Oak Grove Park one, this is their rule sign, however, it still says Oak Grove Park. Staff recommendation would be don't include the park name because then we can buy in bulk and it makes it likely cheaper. And more than likely you'll have a monument sign anyways. But then also determine what information you want included on both the rules and entrance signs. Are there questions so far, or do we want to go back to at least the entrance part and we can kind of go from there?
So this is a discussion as opposed to something you need a motion on?
Correct,
Okay,
correct. This, by figuring out what you guys want on the signs, it helps me determine the size of the sign, which I had an example one at my desk that I was going to bring with, that I did not bring with. I can go grab it if you guys would like me to, but it helps me determine what size we need by figuring out what are the end-all be-alls for you guys to have on there. So again, not the color. Right now, if you guys don't like the color blue, that's irrelevant to me. We can discuss that later, but at least we can kind of start here.
I can start it. I like
Thank you.
seeing the city logo at the bottom, like the Brooklyn Park one, only because we don't have a lot of parks right now. So if we have a park out somewhere that's sort of maybe in the middle of something, not that people wouldn't know where they were, but with all of our different zip codes and things that we have going on, it might be nice to just have our logo on the sign somewhere.
Which one are you looking at?
The one with the park hours on the bottom, where it just has a little,
Oh, see, and
And
I
then-
like the one that says Plymouth Park Rules.
I like that one too.
You could say Corcoran Park Rules and it could pertain to all of them.
I will also
So
note,
Same difference.
there was a discussion either in February, or January, where it was brought up that people might not feel that the park is open to all. So having that logo on there makes it more encompassing. As far as I'm concerned, I haven't seen any that really say, this park is open to everyone. But I think having the logo on there shows that it's more of a public park.
Agreed. Are we on entrance signs, is that what we're talking about?
Yes, yep. Or if you have other discussion points, but
Well,
I think it'll help to narrow in on one and then hone
I
in
know
on the
putting
other.
an address doesn't always look the best, but if there's an emergency and somebody's going, where are you? And they're going, I don't know. It happens, and our city park actually has two addresses, that's why it gets two signs. But they say we're at the Corcoran City Park. Well, you could be over off of 10 at Schneider Field and they're heading over to the three-ring ball field over there.
And to
the
play devil's
Rockford
advocate,
property.
you could be at the pavilion, super far away from the sign, and not even see it.
Correct.
So,
Correct.
it's all a matter of, do you use the geographical location of
But
I'm
it
right next to
also-
the pavilion?
But it also works for emergency crews to find it. If, they can say, I'm off at 10. I don't know.
Hopefully
Retired
people know
UPS
that.
driver addresses to me are
Obviously
important.
more important.
I won't ask for a zip code, okay? I just, I think they're important, but maybe not at Wildflower, I don't know, because somebody could say I'm on the corner of Wildflower and,
Right.
I don't know what the cross street is, you know?
Yeah, it's
Or
really
at a
wide open.
smaller park.
Gleason and Wildflower would be the main intersection.
Or if we
Okay.
have the name of the park on the sign, because, I mean, if you do an emergency phone call and you know where you are. you say,
Right, oh, I think the
"Wildflower
name
Park."
is important, for
Yeah.
sure, not just a name, but yes.
Yeah.
I'm thinking small with an address, yeah. No, I think
Well, and
the
it wouldn't
name-
have to be huge.
Mhm.
And again, we can get into the aesthetics, if you will, at a later date.
Sure.
Well,
But no, I think the name of the park's important, for sure.
has there been any discussion about the logo, keeping it more simplified?
There's been some, we haven't fully gotten into it, but I know I've talked to Jessica a few times about it. You know, when we have a water tower, we're probably gonna have to think of if that whole logo would translate well to something like that.
Right.
And maybe it makes sense not to get rid of that logo, but to also have a simplified version that can go on things.
Yeah.
You know, you see a lot of cities that kind of have the first letter of their city, you know, Minnetonka M or
Plymouth
whatever,
P.
Plymouth P, right. So maybe we come up with something like that as a kind of alternate logo that we use on stuff like that.
Right.
But we haven't actually designed anything yet.
Yeah, because that's kind of like a portrait.
Right.
So,
Well, it
yeah,
shows what the
just for-
community is about.
Yeah,
I mean, for
it's
ease,
cool,
yes, but it
but
also
for a
makes,
Yeah, I
sign,
like
I
the
think
logo.
it might.
it also makes us look like everyone else. You got a C or a P, I think. I mean, I'm not saying this can't be changed or modified, but it kind of shows we've got farming, we've got, you know, we have wetland and homes, you know?
I had to describe to somebody, somebody who was getting trees, where City Park is. Well, they were living in Ravinia, they'd been there a few months, they just had never, I mean, they go into town every day.
Sure.
So to have an address to give them that actually works on Google Maps,
Yes,
that's, if it doesn't work on Google Maps, it doesn't exist, right? So that somebody can find it. You know, you're waiting for somebody, and where are you? Well, you
Right.
have that, and they can just give the address and sign. So I like addresses.
So for reference, because, ooh, yikes, we have had to use stuff for, like imprints on promotional items.
sure.
This would be kind of the simplified version of the logo that we have if it were single color. Now, I'm not saying that this is necessarily the logo that has to go on the signs, but if this helps at all, oh, should probably show the other people.
Don't we have the full logo on other signs? I thought we used to, like with the color version.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. I'm just saying that this is the simplified version, if that helps, for reference.
I mean, I think the name needs to be on there, you know, like we talked about with the Brooklyn Park or the, whatever, the city of Corcoran or whatever, for sure.
You know, I took some notes and I can't find them. Oh, there's a surprise. I think that I heard clearly that Wildflower Park, for some people, is a park that belongs to Ravinia, which wasn't our intention. It's not true. So I think especially at neighborhood parks, to have welcome to, you know, Corcoran Public Park, you know, something that really says this belongs to the entire city of Corcoran and all, I mean, it's not even just residents, it's a public park, so public is welcome. Just to be really clear about that.
And when you say that, are you talking about on, like, the park rules sign? Are you talking on the entrance sign?
I probably am more in favor of a a simpler entrance sign, just name and address, and it's not really a rule, it's just a welcoming sign. But if it has to go on the rules, then it should go on the rules, but just something that's really clear that everybody is welcome at the park.
Can we have a separate sign though for the rules inside the park?
Right, yes, no, these are two separate signs. So, entrance sign would be park name, address. I'm hearing city logo with or without the city of Corcoran, but I'm hearing more so with, so the full, this logo.
So as I was looking at these,
Personally,
pardon?
I like the full color versus the black and white liner one.
Again, the aesthetics, I'm more looking like with the text
Oh, got it.
or just the,
With the text, I
okay.
think.
That just
Yeah.
helps give me, I mean, it might not seem like a whole lot, but that extra wording is a lot of space when you're trying to blow it up nice and big, so that people can read it. So I'm hearing name, address, full text, and image logo. Dependent on what council
You can say
decides for
Corcoran
logo.
City Park, you know, something like that. Or,
Yeah.
you know,
Just a second, you have that slide. I know everybody's got that piece of paper.
Give me just a second.
City of Brooklyn Park.
Yeah.
That would say it's a public park.
That would.
It's Corcoran Park.
That would. And that's on an informational sign. Yeah, it's just,
Yeah, so welcome.
oh, it's on the rule sign, yeah. Yeah.
So I have a rule.
Is this
There,
the one you were
okay, that's
referencing?
one Dean was
Yeah,
looking.
you guys are talking of an entrance sign, that would be entrance.
Those are entrance signs.
I think in my mind.
Yep.
You did this great job on giving all kinds, you got one there with the city, the name of the park, and the address, I mean, you've got a lot on that one slide.
And for the record, this is even in Colorado, so while I was on vacation.
you're always thinking.
I have a pet peeve, and that's that if the bottom of the posts of every park sign have been weed whipped half dead, it's really tacky.
I think these all look okay.
Well,
I like the blocks underneath.
well, on the other hand, the Hamel Legion Park, not to speak ill of Hamel, but it's sort of presumptuous. It just, you know, we're a community. I don't think we need to be quite that
Monumental.
monumental, yeah.
And I guess when
Say City of Medina.
You could.
There's a lot of rich people in.
There are, yeah.
I will note that by having something that size, I mean, if you want it to be the same across the board, at like your neighborhood parks, at your community parks, that's another discussion as well, I guess.
Sure.
This seems like it should be like at the city park, like the main.
That, something that big
And
at the
then other
big
parks
park,
would have
if you did
smaller
that at all.
So what I'm hearing is like, this would be at City Park. But
If-
then something a little simpler, such as
Simpler.
maybe this Oak Grove, would be at Wildflower.
Sure.
Yeah.
A simplified
Oh, I
version
like that
of this,
one with
still the
the-
same aesthetic and everything, just to keep it consistent across the board.
Sure,
You got the
Yep.
address.
yes.
And the little hump is kind of matches the little part of our logo too.
We're not going into the aesthetic.
I know.
And I know what happens when we go down this rabbit hole. I'm nipping it right there.
We'll be here all night.
Yes. I love spending my evenings with you guys, however, something to note, and this is just a personal preference, if it were me, I wouldn't just want the numbers on there. I think if you're gonna put the address on there, not to speak ill of Erie, Colorado, but I would probably include a street
Street
as
name?
well.
Well, like the Plymouth one over
Yes,
here.
correct,
It doesn't have
correct.
to do that,
And-
but yeah.
And I don't think you need a zip code, and I don't think you need city, or I don't think you need Corcoran on there, because you'll already have the logo, so that should be apparent. Especially if you have City of Corcoran, then if people don't know what Corcoran is, they know it's a city. So, logo, full logo,
Probably.
name, address
Park.
of the park, and then name, and address of the park.
Yeah.
Something simpler for your neighborhood parks, but still matches something a little more ooh-la-la at City Park.
Yeah, or a bigger version or whatever, yeah.
Yeah?
Like, I think the Hamel sign for city.
It's a
park-
bigger version because people are driving at higher speed. They have to be able to read the sign as they go by.
I mean, technically, they should be going at 30 at that point, I
Well, but
believe,
it's-
so
See, yeah, that's true,
Oh,
that's
that's
true.
your hotel.
More things to look at.
maybe we should go through speed limits next.
Okay, go to the next page, or you're not done.
Well, the plus with the Hamel sign is
Yeah.
just to not have it weed whipped.
Yeah.
That's why
Well,
it's
that's true,
raised.
yeah.
Just raised.
And probably it
Not
is.
monumental, but.
Yeah.
Under the hammer one.
So you would be okay if it didn't
You see it?
necessarily have the,
You think
what-
it is a bird?
we're not getting into the aesthetics.
No, no.
Yeah, you are.
Oh, you almost got me.
Tempting, but we're not going to.
Not this time.
No.
Okay,
Just
so
maintenance wise.
we feel okay though, moving from entrance. I feel like I got everything everyone's kind of hitting on.
And I don't know, I like the blocks. I think for Public Works, it's easier for them to weed whip around that versus having to worry about not weed whipping something.
Okay, yeah, that's true. Good point.
I'm moving on before we go
we
deeper
go.
into this rabbit hole.
Okay.
So I'm gonna switch back to the slideshow.
Okay.
Here are your rules again. So I think let's hammer out what rules are most important to you guys for having on there. The one end all be all that, as a staff member, I'd recommend is park hours.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, I'm at your guys's.
I have a question.
Yes.
So, I don't know if it's been an issue yet, but I know there have been some, I've read some things like on whatever, Neighbors or whatever those little groups are, of people in Corcoran who have, and I think it's more of like private, maybe green spaces, but that people are getting those like ATVs or those other machines. And I'm just wondering if we need to have something on the signs that reference those so people aren't driving those through the trails.
So if you're gonna do that, I'd recommend going with and I can switch to, let's see.
And I've seen them driving like locally in here, like.
Authorized vehicles only is generally how it's put, or no unauthorized vehicles, or motorized vehicles are not allowed.
Or maybe it's not necessary, I just thought I'd bring it up.
Well, and
Good
that's
conversation.
one of the ones that makes a very prominent appearance on a lot of signs, so I think that's a good point.
Okay.
And that would be all encompassing, and then you're not just specifically saying ATV, and then people go, well, I thought I could drive my car down here because it said only ATVs. Well, what about my gator? Doesn't that work?
Or my golf cart.
Or my golf cart? You guys are that mesmerized.
Well, we're thinking. Can't you hear it?
I hear the wheels.
Yeah,
Well, the city park, where no golfing is probably an issue over
I
there,
think it is, yeah.
It is.
you know?
Would we, I know you said cost savings is kind of like to have them the same, but would we consider like in where the soccer fields and all that side, what is that called? Is that Schneider, did you say? Over that way
The
versus?
Old Rockford property.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that versus what's up by the park? Because to me, like, I don't think anyone's gonna be up by the park swinging a golf club. More, I see people letting their dogs run or potentially, I don't think I've seen golfing, but I could see that as a place where those would be an issue over there, whereas there's
Yeah.
different things to address up by the park,
I've
such
seen
as
golfing there.
alcohol.
People have
You?
golfed there, yeah.
I see people running their dogs, for sure, without leashes.
That's another one I would strongly recommend is having that leash law one on there because there have been numerous occasions, both during youth athletics and not, that there are people with dogs and they say, well, I didn't know that was a rule. It's not written anywhere. And I'm like, well, that's fair. But also,
Well, it's a common sense if you're a pet owner.
Exactly. There's dogs there every day. And there's golfers there every day.
Especially if
And
there's
I'm
kids
sure they
around
smoke and
stuff.
drink, so where else do you wanna go?
these are your guys' rules. You approved them.
Then you can drive your ATV to the bar, so why can't you drive it to the park?
Well, you can drive it to the park.
But you just
Yeah.
can't.
Park.
Drive it around.
You just can't go
Gotta leave it at the
past
parking
the
lot.
parking lot with it.
No,
If that is your means of transportation, I think that's still
they're
allowed.
legal, so you see them up and down the road all the time.
Yeah.
We are in the country, kids.
Yes, we are.
I just prefer to not see them on the infield.
I don't either. That's for cars only at night.
Oh, I did have a couple of other notes. You'll notice tobacco-free ground signs.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty certain we can get these for free as a separate sign. So, that being said, if you guys wanted to leave that off, or you feel it's terrible, that's also some guidance that I'd appreciate, just because then I can look into it. Otherwise, if you are indifferent and don't want it on the signpost at all, we can kind of go that route. So, I'm gonna switch back though.
I kind of like to not see where they stack a whole bunch of signs. I think that's, it's too much. I don't, I
Pretty
just,
tacky.
The library
yeah, tacky
reading.
is definitely, so.
Do we have a problem with tobacco in any of our parks? Like,
Yes and no.
okay.
Not, I can't speak to Wildflower, I don't know if,
Not that I've noticed.
but City Park, there have been numerous occurrences. Oh, and my computer's gonna switch out, I think, pretty soon here.
I know, none.
And it's mostly during like youth athletics.
Okay.
Quite frankly, I wouldn't be out there being a stickler if people are doing it and no one else is really around, you're not really having an impact. But if you're standing around a crowd of people, that's generally when I'm like,
Is it
okay.
like cigarettes or is it more like?
It's generally cigarettes.
Okay.
I don't think anyone's walking up to anyone with a wad of chew in their mouth
Okay.
going.
Well, with baseball, sometimes baseball players, you know.
Hopefully not that age.
Would these all be shortened, Jessica?
Yes, so I made these the shortened version, and if you have a specific wording that you'd prefer to see.
This Hamel one's good. It has no motorized vehicles too, as a bullet point.
I didn't want to shorten them too much, so that you,
Yep.
I tried to line them up
Use-
with the ordinances that I included in your packet as well, so that you can kind of see both sides, but.
Yeah. A few of the signs, they don't have a rule, but they give you a phone number to call if there is some problem, broken equipment or other issue that needs dealing with. That information, I think, is just really nice. That's really friendly,
Yeah.
you know. I think
Pat
it's
Meister's personal number.
you know, call them all. Yep, yep.
He'd love you for that one.
I agree with that a lot, because there was one time where I went over to City Park and one of the little like things that go back and forth that was actually like off of the spring. And I was years ago when I was fairly new here, and I was like, I'm not sure who to call to come fix this. So a number would have been helpful in that situation.
And for reference, it would probably be just the main city hall number. I don't know if you guys have called recently, but we now have a phone tree. Press 4 for Parks and Rec.
Ooh.
So, in that moment, that would have been super helpful, and then if we had the main line, you would have the option to press 4. I don't think it would have to go to a specific Park and Rec phone number, but I think the main line,
Yeah, somewhere where somebody will listen to the phone, yeah.
And that's on the, not the main sign, but we're talking about the.
rules, yep.
Okay.
Yep, we're on to.
Yep.
And when I say park rule signs, it's more of an informative sign, but not to be confused with the educational wildflower signs. So I'm hearing phone number,
Yeah.
wording TBD. Did we like the idea of park hours?
Yes.
Yes, that's true.
Yep.
Yeah.
Do we want to just walk through each one and kind of get a consensus? Would that be easier?
Sure.
So, defacing of park property, I'm going to combine trees in there as well because that's kind of park property. How do we feel about those two?
I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer.
To me, it's a
right?
common sense thing,
You
again.
know, yeah, what-
I think it's,
I mean,
when you have it on a sign, it gives them an idea.
Yeah.
You know?
That's right. Oh, yeah, I would like to have, consider having like is it an RF code?
QR.
Oh, yeah,
QR
QR
I
code.
was thinking about
A
that.
Yeah.
QR code that would link you back to park rules,
I like that.
That would work.
and then,
Then you
you
can have
know,
as many as you want.
you can have as many as you want there.
Yeah.
These are the ones we've picked, but the, full park rules are at, scan that.
That would help too, then, if you get people like, well, I didn't know about it, and you're like,
And it's
oh.
easier to change if there's.
Yeah.
You can just put a
Could add
sticker over the top.
Add or
Or
subtract.
just if whatever it links to.
Whatever it links to,
change
change
that on
that.
the website.
Yeah, because I was looking at this Medina one, and it has no roller skating, rollerblading, skateboarding, we don't have hard surfaces yet, but we will. So you could add that later.
Sure. So QR code.
Yeah.
I like that idea a lot.
Boy, aren't we modern?
We could be so innovative.
I had to ask what it was, though.
And I had the wrong initials, so you know. how that-
I thought I knew, but I wasn't sure.
In every restaurant.
And we'd have lots of room on the sign.
Mine does.
So 4, no littering. I've seen this one in a few different iterations, both in terms of trash, otherwise picking up your dog's feces.
I didn't do it.
That's always a problem, I guess, I understand.
And I think you could argue either way, like, yes, it could be a prominent problem, which, by the way, I have had it occur during soccer season and people left it out there, and then I have kids walking up to me, and I have now learned to bring a bag every time I go to City Park. But it also can be a means of trash. But again, is that one of those where it's common sense?
Common sense.
I think the no
But
litter
if you
is
have-
common sense. I think the dog, picking up after your dog might be something you could include
Yeah.
because if people are bringing dogs.
Just have to be on leash.
So maybe
Can you
that,
add,
go ahead.
can you add on to the
Animals
the
one?
leash law?
That was gonna be my next question. Great minds.
You know, and then once again, well, we would have some garbage cans out there, and a lot of parks do have a few bags there in case people have forgotten.
And that could be something we could look into as well at a later date. I know Public Works wasn't super adamant about doing the ones that have the bag and the trash connected to it, but we have so many trash cans at most of these parks that
Can you dispose, like, this is gonna be a silly question maybe, but like, when you see those where they actually have specific, like, you deposit your dog's.
I don't think anyone's doing organics recycling with it
Well, no, but I
necessarily.
mean, do you have to dispose of it a certain way? Because you could just throw it, just any trash, okay.
It's better to throw it in the trash. You don't want to compost it or.
No, I wasn't thinking that, but
Yeah.
like, if you have to dispose of it because it's like toxic waste, is it something that's really bad to even be putting in the garbage, is what I was
No, I
wondering.
think you can do
It's
that.
fine.
Okay.
Although people don't like you putting your dog's droppings in their
Their
garbage.
garbage.
But I think that's mostly a smell issue, isn't it? I don't- Or just because they're people, ornery.
Yeah,
No, that's fair.
yeah.
Or we can put your address on there, Michelle, if you want them to bring them. So littering, it sounds like the big concern is dog poop. Maybe we talk about that in association with 10.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. 5, no posting of signs.
Does that really happen?
I'm not as far as I'm aware, but this was on here before I got here, so I don't know if it's maybe in reference to the pavilion and people were like hanging stuff up on there and not taking it down.
I think it goes back, it's pre-neighborhood days. People would say, put signs up saying yard sale,
Oh,
or,
That's
you know,
good information.
that sort of thing. What do I know?
Okay.
Yeah, it's probably an old school thing.
An old school thing, yeah. I'd know that, yeah.
but not on the signs that you guys are.
No, I
Nope,
don't.
okay. No moving equipment. So this isn't like U-Hauls. This is like, please don't move the bench.
Oh, okay, I was
Oh.
wondering.
There's hardly,
I needed a little better
Well, the
explanation
bleachers,
on that.
there's
the
hardly
bleachers
anything
are
to
like
move, is there?
movable, or the picnic tables are.
Picnic tables, benches.
Forklifts.
Okay, how do you drive a car in there?
Garbage
That's-
cans.
Garbage cans.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I haven't really seen
I mean, I think
people
most-
move them.
Right,
Yeah.
I think most.
If
of
they're
the-
gonna move them,
Yeah.
they're gonna steal them.
Yep, and then they're gone.
Well, I mean, if they're moving them, they're using them more for convenient, and they're using them. Type of thing, like a garbage can. And then we'll move it back afterwards. I don't think that's a big.
So no to that one?
Yeah.
No sales in the park,
Well,
ice cream trucks, food trucks, concessions. I've had questions like that, so I would assume that's what this is kind of referencing.
Well,
What
they
if we
probably need a
decided, like, what if
permit
the city
to
decided
Yeah, I would
that it's-
think.
do that anyway, right?
I think that would be the exception,
Yep.
similar to the alcohol.
Seems like an old school thing too, doesn't
Yeah.
it? Like,
Yeah.
if you're gonna have your own little sale.
Yeah, or
At
just
the
pull up
park.
in a ice cream truck and start selling stuff. I think most of them would know you need a permit anywhere to sell it.
I have had people ask. And then I just reference that and I say, sorry.
Isn't there a food truck that comes up for something? I've seen like a donut truck or something.
A food truck came out, if you guys remember the Maple Grove, it was like high school football or something,
Is that
came
what-
through for a beanbag tournament fundraiser situation. I think it was like their booster club, and they got like special permission to have that there. That was during COVID, I think that was 2020.
And that's if somebody's having an event over there, a big ball tournament or something that they want to have one, they'd still come to the city.
Like when the J.C.'s have country days.
Country days, yeah.
That could go in the QR code.
Correct.
No sales.
So no to that one. No breaching of the peace, so you can't go out there and just
Crank your
swear
tunes.
and crank your tunes and basically don't be a nuisance, I guess. Let everyone enjoy the park. Seems like common sense to me, but
Sometimes you need to write it down.
Noise ordinances enforced.
that is an option. I know it was listed somewhere. It might not be on these specific. It might have been shown in your packet, and I can pull that up if,
I like that better. It kind of encompasses it, and then it states that we have an ordinance about it too.
give me one second. I
Amplified
can-
sound is not allowed in the parks.
Let's see.
It's posted at their shelter.
With wood.
Amplified sound is not.
That's what I
allowed.
said.
Yeah, it's right at their shelter, so.
Have we had a problem with that at all?
Oh, here. Is this the one you were talking about?
Mm-hmm.
No, generally, if people are trying to do amplified sound, they'll bring it through council to get that noise permit. I personally haven't heard of any big issues with it.
I mean, to me, that'd be somebody sitting in the car with the tunes cranked and the bass beating and then the cops show up and say, turn it down. That's what the boys are for.
I'm gonna switch back to this one.
Maybe that's
So,
that one on here.
breach of
On the
peace,
Dyna.
do we want noise ordinance? Anything about that in there? Or is that part of the
That one?
QR code?
Yeah.
Yeah, because they have a disclosure at the bottom, full set of rules. Boom.
Are you talking about this one?
We are gonna have a neighborhood
And
right
raise
across
it
the
up?
street.
Yeah,
so
that's a good
I think
idea.
that would
All
be
in one line.
necessary to have
Yeah.
like that.
I like that.
I mean, we don't have a lot of parks that are near neighborhoods right now. I mean, Wildflower, we do,
Wildflower.
but
I don't know.
It's your guys' decision.
I didn't hear it, sorry.
because there's a neighborhood going in right across the street from City Park, I just was wondering if we wanted to include something about noise.
I'm sure if there's any,
Well, we
somebody
can,
will let
we
you
can
know.
put it in there and then see how it all fits. If it doesn't
take it
fit,
out.
then we might have to delete.
Yep.
Okay. Alcohol consumption, this was a big one. It's tricky because we are,
We allow some.
yes, and that's where it gets a little gray
How
because.
about no underage drinking?
That's all, well,
Well, that's an obvious, but.
yeah.
Let's see, what were some of the examples? It's hard because a lot of them are, you can't have alcohol.
Anyway.
No glass containers, maybe?
That's also one, because then Tom brought up pickles.
Oh, that's right. Wow.
It's one of my favorite discussions we've ever had.
Pickles must be in Tupperware.
That's right.
Either one.
Internally, we said wine, but externally, Tom said pickles. And we can work on wording now, or we can work on it later, and I can kind of try and come up with something and run it by you guys as we Because I think space is gonna be the biggest
Space is the
issue. So it's getting it,
Well, or the hard liquor part. kind
no
of
consumption of hard liquor.
Hard liquor.
Sure,
And then
because,
if you're already not, well, I suppose you're not including the no sales in the park, but if you can't sell stuff, you can't sell
Right.
booze.
Right.
So, no consumption of hard liquor?
I think that's all we need. Yeah.
Or you can't get pickled.
Yeah.
No consumption of hard
There you go, on the
liquor
top
or
of it.
pickle jars.
that's right.
Okay, so 10, animals must be on a leash no longer than 6 foot.
Well, Medina has it on here. All in one, whatever. Must be on a leash and pick up. or
And waste picked up.
I can't read.
I will say, I think the 6 feet is important.
Okay.
My reasoning, because I've seen people out there with incredibly long leashes that I'm not really sure what the point of the leash is.
Oh, gotcha.
Right.
Well, that's not adding that much to that. You know, I was just kind of looking at the size of it going on there.
So maybe pets must be on,
6 foot leash.
No less than. No more.
Could you do maybe the picking it back to your pet first and 6-foot leash required to shorten it?
so
Then you're not saying pet twice.
Right.
pick up and then leash.
Yeah.
There you go.
Look at you guys. So proud. No fires for use other than culinary purposes. The reasoning for this one, I think, is obviously don't have a bonfire at a park, but also we have the grills, and so it's making sure that people know they can still use those.
Right.
Unless
Has it ever been an issue?
Not as far as I
Bonfire in the
know.
park?
somebody burned one of the storage buildings down once.
Oh, well, that was.
But that's a different issue.
Yeah,
That would be defacing park property.
that'd be a whole nother issue.
However, though, would that be, if I read that, I would think, oh, it's okay if I have a fire if I'm cooking on it.
So
Yeah.
maybe bringing attention to it would be worse.
Yeah, I think that's right.
I think,
agree.
yeah,
So leave it off.
Leave it off.
yeah. The grills are
And
there.
again, this is summarized, so
Yeah.
whatever it is in the actual list is fires regulated is the first set of it. So no swimming.
Where?
Really? Where would
Nobody
you-
wants to.
Stay out of it, Dick.
Yes.
I have had
Not
someone
tempted.
call me
Well,
and ask if they could use a kayak in one of the ponds.
Why not?
well,
Where, in City Park?
This was in Ravinia, in that development, and I had to default to Kevin because it wasn't in a park, and I wasn't sure what
Oh,
the
it's one of
rules
the-
were.
one of the
in a
stormwater
spirit
ponds.
pond.
Oh, nice. A Nerf pond?
okay, my mind is going to the city park.
That's
And
where-
there is,
That,
I have not been over there, I guess, for a while, but at one point we talked about not cutting it so close, so it
Right.
was-
Yeah,
you-
yeah.
to keep the kids away from it
Yeah.
and let it kind of grow up more naturally in a way. Is it that way now?
We've made some progress.
yeah,
with
it
that.
does. It's taller now.
It stops the baseballs, if
Okay.
that gives you any reference.
Discourages geese.
Okay.
Oh, they're still geese.
Yeah, there
I'm
is.
sure there are.
Discourages swimming?
And turkeys.
Discourages swimming.
Well, I think the geese discourage the swimming.
Yeah.
That's true.
Good, yeah, that's
We
good.
used to make little boats at home, and then we'd go to the park, and when it was spring, we'd send them under the bridge.
There's a nice little current
There was, and
there.
then we'd run to the end where the pond ended to go pick them up to see who would win.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, nice.
Did you have a
Years ago.
permit for that?
I was just thinking that.
All right,
But you weren't.
all right, let's focus here.
Okay.
So no swimming, we can leave
We
off.
can leave that off.
Yep.
No horses.
Judy?
Why would you bring your horse to that park? I wouldn't, and I'm only a few miles down the road.
Yeah.
You want the horse to go down the slide.
That's right. I'm going to Cohasset.
So we can leave that off.
Yes.
No parking except in designated areas. This could be switched to no unauthorized vehicles. That's very common. I think we have that on a sign. But that's its own specific sign, and people still disregard it, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would rather direct parking in the parking lots, no parking beyond
this point or something
This
like
point,
that.
that-
or
So
No
separate-
motorized
Separate
vehicles
signs
beyond this point,
for parking issues.
something like that.
So separate sign for
Because
parking.
that's just informational. Where do I park?
Well, and more important, because you don't want people driving where there could be people crossing.
No,
or-
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
I had someone going